the World Food Programme is sounding the alarm about the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where 1.5 million people face emergency levels of food insecurity. The UN's Food Agency cites ongoing political instability and armed conflicts that have devastated food production and distribution system. Now, let's discuss this. We are now joined via Teams by Peter Musoko, the Country Director for World Food Programme. Thank you so much for your time. Now, the World Food Programme cited political instability and armed conflicts. But how much of the current food insecurity is as a result of climate change, would you say?
Thank you very much for having me on your show. Climate definitely plays an unnecessary and evil component into this already interlinked crisis. Let me give you an example. I was in May in an area in the east of Congo called Kalehe, where a landslide had killed over 5,500 people and destroyed the homes of thousands others. These were people who had fled armed conflict. And to add to this, last week, in the same area, the makeshift shelters were burnt to the ground. And 15 people were killed, 9 of them children. So we have an area where compounded issues are causing a real threat to the people in the east of Congo. And guess who bears the biggest brunt? The women and the girls.
It would seem that the situation on the ground is really untenable. You know, what are some of the immediate interventions you as the World Food Programme are currently working on?
In June, we, in the World Food Programme, stepped up our response to what we call a corporate scale-up. This means every resource that we have is put to bring our capacity to deliver. And so we have, in last month, in July, reached up to 1.2 million people. But this is still well below our stated objectives of trying to get to 3.6 of the 5.6 million people or so who really require assistance. And that's because funding is not just there. We do that.
How much impact do you think the war in South Sudan had a role to play in this?
Well, there's unfortunately too many crises happening across the globe today, and all of them with a limited package of funding. But let me put it this way, I always have to insist that while we try to prioritize funding for humanitarian action, the people of Congo also need the attention of the world. So yes, there is competition of funding with the various crises across, but we cannot turn a blind eye to the suffering that is happening here now.
And now, of course, you are sounding the alarm, for 1.5 million who face emergency levels of food insecurity. But we know that in the country, there are about 4.5 million people who already suffer from malnutrition and need some form of aid. When we start talking about scale in terms of just the funding and the finance, what are we really talking to here? And what other, roles can other entities play in ensuring that those funds are made available?
You make a very good point. 4.4 million children and pregnant and lactating women across the country, 903,000 severely malnourished children countrywide. This is case for worry. The World Food Programme here, we need for the next 6 months to be able to respond to the basic needs of the populations affected by this crisis, 793 million. Of which we have a gap at the moment of 567 million. So you see, we really need all our donors, traditional and non-traditional donors, to stand up now and make sure that the people of Congo, and particularly the women and the girls in this part of the country, are not bearing the brunt of this crisis.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Dr. Musoko. Mr. Musoko, thank you so much for your time. That, of course, is Peter Musoko, Country Director for World Food Programme. And, of course, the organization is sounding the alarm in the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo.